Hello and welcome to our next data collection video. I'm Anna from My Imprint.
Hi, I'm William from My Imprint.
And we're going to be talking about this next spreadsheet that we would like you to complete. The first step that you've probably already done is this background information that you could see here already. If you've still got any questions about that, feel free to contact us and we can help you through any part of it. And what we're talking about today is the significant screening and sort of a first step checklist in this part of the process. So what we're looking at is the different emission sources and whether they may or may not be present. Now, if you don't know all this information off the top of your head, you might need to contact other people in your organisation, some of the ground staff and facilities, or even an accounts to find out whether you're whether you do actually have this potential emission source. So we'll take you through this part of the spreadsheet now.
Cheers, thanks Anna. So you'll see it's the second tab on the Excel spreadsheet called Significant Screening. And I'll just go through each column. So we've got Scope 1, ISO category, GHG protocol category. You don't need to worry too much about those. Today we're going to be focusing on this column, My Imprint classification, which goes through each emission source. And next to that has some added detail. And then what you'll be doing is marking yes or no whether you have that emission source. So I'll go through each one. Some I'll provide some more clarification on, some I'll go over quickly. For example, coal, it's pretty self-explanatory. And mark yes or no whether you have it. And if you need any further clarification after this, please feel free to get in touch. So again, natural gas, diesel stationary, this is diesel burnt in generators, LPG, biomass, so that's generally things like pellet burners for industrial processes, landfill gas, typically that's for businesses that have their own landfill on site, so you may or may not have that one. Medical gases, and both of those will be for healthcare or hospitals. Fleet fuels, you may have that one, and you can mark that as a yes. Biofuel, fleet fuels, that diesel, so that's diesel that's used in your vehicles. Refrigerants, so this includes refrigerants from fridge, freezers, and air conditioning units. It includes refrigerants from office fridges as well. So this one you may likely have. Nitrogen fertilizer, land use change, enteric fermentation, addition of lime to soils, open burning of organic matter, addition of crop residues. So you may have them if you're in the agriculture industry. Treatment of wastewater. So this is treatment of wastewater that's done on site. And so those are the key Scope 1 emission sources. So Scope 2 emission sources are from indirect emissions from imported energy. So you will likely have electricity, purchase steam you may have. So these Scope 3 emission sources, I'll list them and spend detail, give a bit of a description about the more complicated ones. So this significant spend, this is just really a screening. So this one, you'll mark yes, and later on we'll just review what that may be for your business. And again, just note anything in bold, if it is significant for your business, then we will be including it. So you'll likely have some water use. You may or may not have some chemicals that you use. Construction materials, concrete, steel, aluminium, capital goods. Again, you may or may not have made a major purchase, and later we'll, if you have, just mark yes, and we'll get into more detail on those ones later. T&D losses.
Sorry, William, I was just going to say there that with that capital goods, we've given a guide of $5,000. If you've got a larger organisation, you might need to put that level up a little bit. And if you've got a smaller organisation, then you might need to put that down a bit. So it's just a guide at this stage.
Perfect. So T&D losses, that's when you purchase electricity, there's some energy lost in the transmission of it. You will have that if you purchase electricity. Client supplied electricity, this one is a little bit different. So this is when you generate your own electricity, but not from generators, so from solar or wind power. Freight, so you'll see upstream freight, and further on down you'll see downstream freight. And upstream freight is freight coming into your business, and downstream is going to your customers. So just mark yes or no whether you have freight paid by your organization, and the same thing whether it's paid by someone else. So that's if you get a delivery for free. Disposal of solid waste, so that's anything that goes to landfill. Recycling, plastics and glass. So then disposal of liquid waste, not wastewater. So that's things like if you're doing oil changes on site and you dispose of that waste. Disposal of liquid waste, wastewater is reticulated. If you have reticulated water coming in and you using the, say, for example, council system, you'll have wastewater. So then there's also trade waste, liquid waste from trades. This next chunk is for travel-related emissions. So if you're traveling for work, say for business trips, you may have accommodation, taxis, rental cars, ferries, rail, bus, and air travel. So just mark down whether you have them, yes or no. Employee commuting, this is how your employees get to work. If you have a physical location, you will likely have employee commuting. Working from home is if you have people working remotely. Use of assets. So this one you may have, it's for some industrial processes, may involve chemical reactions. So typically in the manufacturing industry. Downstream freight, so again paid by your organization, or downstream freight that's paid by your customers. Client and visitor transport, so this is how your clients get to you if they're traveling to your site or your office. Processing of sold goods, so this typically refers to emissions associated with assembling or manufacturing final products from individual parts. So an example is if you're manufacturing some sort of battery or electronic piece, the emissions the emissions that are generated after your product is sold. The use stage of sold products, so this is when your products are used, what emissions are generated, and that's generally things like from appliances or from housing, so the energy used in the houses or the energy used in that appliance. The end of life stage of sold products, so that's emissions generated from the eventual disposal of that product. So if your product goes to landfill or goes to recycling, then you may have end of life emissions. And yeah, just again to note, so after this process, we will go through whether we will include these emission sources or exclude them. And if you have any questions whether your product has got that emission source, just get in touch. Downstream leased assets. So an example of this is if you're renting out a building and it's the emissions that occur in that building. Franchises, investments, so the emissions of your investments, and then emissions from insurance associated emissions, and that generally applies to insurance companies. And finally, we've got the ETS there, so that's just whether you have anything in the emission trading scheme, and just note that down as a yes or a no. So that's the end of this checklist for emission sources, and the next step will be whether we're going to include them or exclude them.
And so just a quick point, if you're not sure about something, just mark it down as a yes, and we can help you work through the next stage as to whether it is actually something that's relevant or not. So thanks for listening. Good luck.
Cheers.
Stay in touch.
Thank you. Stay
Thank
in
you.
touch.